and gentlemen, on behalf of our CEO, Mr. Tony Aid and Telecom Review Group, I would like to welcome you all, panelists and attendees, to today's Telecom Review webinar entitled Spotlight on Oman's Digital Journey. I'm Christine Ziadeh, the Director of Content for Media and Events at Telecom Review Group, and it is my pleasure really to lead you through today's topic before giving the floor to our esteemed panelists and moderators. Digital transformation has been labeled as the potion to success at the level of all industries and sectors. It has been on top of all countries' national agenda, given its role in contributing to economic success and social well-being. The Sultanate of Oman has realized the importance of digitalization and has made an impressive progress in its digital journey. In today's session, we will hear from leading telecom players about how Oman was able to succeed in its digital endeavors and the achievements made so far in alignment with Vision 2040. We will hear as well about initiatives launched in the Sultanate that aim to leverage and monetize the most advanced technologies, including 5G and AI. Where does the digital journey lead and what's next? Let's discover that in the next 90 minutes. I now give the floor to Dr. Abdullah Al-Balushi, Technology Consulting Partner at Ernst and Young, who will moderate this session and will introduce our esteemed panelists.
Okay, thank you very much, Christine, for the opening and for your warm welcoming to our audience. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your interest and for your time joining us, where I promise you it will be an interesting panel discussion that we will have, especially with our valuable guest and panelists. We had discussed few elements last year as well. So I think this year, what is different, we are bringing also new people to ensure that we bring the best of the best as well when it's come to sharing the lessons and sharing the experiences and the thoughts that we have from the bright panelists we have today with us. So without any further delay, I think let me jump in, quickly introduce our panelists in today's discussion. So we have Mr. KK from the CCO of Ooredoo Oman. We have also the CEO of FRiENDi Mobile Oman, Mr. Shadli. Welcome to the panel discussion today. We have also with us the VP and Head of Ericsson GCC, Mr. Nicolas. Welcome, Mr. Nicolas, with us today. And we have also the CEO of Vodafone Oman, Mrs. Aneth. So welcome also to the panelists. I will give, of course, each one of you, please, few minutes just to introduce yourself in maybe more appropriate manner for the panel discussion. So if you allow me, maybe we can start from where I see in my screen. Mr. Shadli, please, can you start introducing yourself quickly?
Yeah, my name is Shadli. Thank you, Dr. Abdullah. Thank you, Telecom Reviews, for having me on the session today. So basically, my name is Shadli Al Abdulsalam. As you mentioned, I've been recently appointed early last year, CEO of FRiENDi Mobile Oman, but I've been in the telecom space for the past 20 years, all locally here in Oman. So I've worked with multiple operators here. And I've seen firsthand multiple firsts in terms of the access technologies that basically been launched, and basically the genesis of how digital transformation has actually basically started. So it's actually part of some of those firsts. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to basically share any learnings that I can share, and also basically to get learnings from the rest of the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Shadli. And Aneth, since I see you next in my screen, yes. Please, can you?
Yes, my name is Aneth Guerra. This has been a journey for me. It's been a bit more than 30 years in telecommunications. So I come from knowing and understanding very traditional network systems to a 100% digital operation like Vodafone Oman. So I've been in operations, in telecom operations here in US, Latin America. I'm the mother of two, and I am passionate about cybersecurity.
Great, thank you, Aneth. And Nicolas, with your smile, please, if you move next.
Hello, everybody. I'm Nicolas Blixell. I'm from Sweden, a Swedish national, but I grew up in France. That's why I have a little bit of a French accent when I speak English. I've been with Ericsson for about 17 years. I've been following the technological evolution from all over the world, living in Southeast Asia, Africa, North America, Europe, and now in Dubai, heading the GCC, which is extremely exciting. How at the forefront of technology, those, not all of them, but many countries are, and Oman is one of them that we're going to talk about today. I'm a father of two, and I'm passionate about technology.
Thank you, Mr. Nicholas. And QK?
Hello, how are you doing? I love how you mispronounced Quique, because I'm used to have my name mispronounced in every possible way. So don't worry at all. My name is Quique. I'm new into the company, into the region, into the country, not into the industry, but a lot of new news for me, because I took over the CCO of Ooredoo Oman in March. So I just barely passed my probation period. So Ooredoo is stuck with me now, because they didn't fire me yet. So majority of my career has been in Vodafone. 16, 17 years in Vodafone. I started my career in BCG in Spain, then the bulk of my years in Vodafone. Before joining, I was working in United Group, which is a media and a telco leader into the southeast region of Europe. And now I'm here, really excited about it. Also a father of two. Probably my passions are not that much cybersecurity and technology, so I try to have passions outside of my, let's say, telco world. But for sure, it is something that still moves me and drives me, because there's many years into it.
No, great. Thank you very much, and welcome again to everyone from our valued panelists. Of course, we are so excited to learn from you today and hear from you, which will be beneficial to everyone. So if we start with no further delay, I think the digital transformation journey, it's across, and it's not maybe something new that we hear. However, saying that year after year and time after time, there is a lot of changes happening, whether it's in the journey itself, whether it's in the experiences or in the dynamics happening around. So I think starting with this, maybe Engineer Shadli, if we talk, maybe start talking about why all of that focus on the digital transformation, especially when we talk maybe in telecom. Many of the people that might not realize how the digital transformation taking place in the telecom and caused sometimes by the telecom is impacting and benefiting everyone, whether it's the society, whether it's other initiatives run in the country, or even on the customers themselves. So if you shed the light briefly on that, be appreciated.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that question, Dr. Abdullah. So if you look at digital transformation, if you look at telco in general, what do we, I mean, telco in general purely is basically a business that was analog, driven for quite some time, right? And I think if you basically think of what the essence of what we do is that we're here basically grow revenues, grow our customer base through ARPU growth, through lower churns. However, if you basically look at where we are today versus where we were before, previously it's easy for you to go out into the market, go through different channels, and basically amass those base and grow your revenues in that particular fashion. However, it's becoming much more difficult to actually say, how do you basically grow the customers? It's because as the market gets saturated, you have more mobile market penetration, you have more people that have mobile phones. What ends up happening is that you need to focus more on the digital transformation in terms of moving customers from analog to digital. So if you look at prior to COVID, if you think of 2019, things were quite difficult in terms of just focusing on digital. But right now you have more people thinking about e-commerce, thinking about how they basically can activate online. So from a telco perspective, it's essentially really only for us to basically grow, not only grow our revenues, but also at the same time, fundamentally basically move from a volume-based model to basically a value-based centric model. And by doing that, you actually have to pivot is actually to digital. Essentially how that basically happens is that you think of the journey in terms of how do you basically access the customer, to basically how you get them to utilize the service, from basically onboarding themselves through an online app to basically going into basically using the services autonomously. This is basically what it does for the telco operation. It helps us reduce our costs in terms of customer acquisition. It basically helps us basically personalize our services when we try to target a customer. Specifically, when I look at my segment, it's a working class segment, and try to basically get these customers on board to use digital services has basically been a journey. But we see the shift, we see the pivot, and basically the idea for them to say, if we want to start using things in a much more digital fashion, because we understand the concept. But at the same time, we understand that this is our way of trying to personalize our services to customers, giving them the full autonomy, and also basically help us leveraging basically our revenues by helping us to reduce our costs and manage our services much more efficiently. So in essence, it's a way for us to, the journey it's still ripe with a lot of challenges, but it's a journey that I think we're going through and everybody else is going through, and it's still ways of us basically getting to a promised land.
Yeah, great, Mr. Shad. Definitely, I agree with you that the digital transformation is giving a big impact on everyone, even including the daily life that we are living as citizens and others. So, Ms. Aneth, based on your experiences and the solid experience you operated maybe in one of the also telecom companies who are heavily dependent on the digital presence and others, what is your perspective as well when it's come to the maybe realize the benefits of the digital transformation and the digital elements?
I think that the digitalization for us is a path to opportunities and options. And I think that this is why it's so important. But it's also, it affects the process in terms of operations and the customer experience so much that the focus is twofolded, no? At least for a telecom. In the case of the operation, for us, the introduction of automation, introduction of AI has been quite important in many different areas of the company, so that we are able not only to see efficiencies in the way the work is done, but also to be able to identify mistakes faster and more efficiently. Also, energy saving, big ticket item for a telecom company. So there's a number of things that in optimizing the operation, being digital or becoming digital is such an important thing. But at the same time, it allows you to see the customer from a different perspective, because what it all ends up being in this competitive environment, in this or any other, in any other country, is what kind of customer experience you are able to provide. So being a company born digital, then it's not just that we don't understand the pain of getting here, is that for us, My Vodafone app has become everything for the customer, from the onboarding, which is a market first in Oman, from how we onboard customers to what kind of experiences this customer has on the app. Has been quite a journey, but a very successful one. Now, does that mean that everybody is digitalized? No. Does that mean that everything that we do is only and exclusively digital? No, because we also know that in this journey, we need to adapt. And adapting to the different market segments has also been part of the process. So, not from, as I said, from the network perspective to how we onboard customers, what is it that the customer is able to get once they have the Vodafone app, has been quite an important item in the country in terms of digitalization. And we will continue in the journey of, getting more and more customers digitalized, but we also understand that we need to do it in some market segments at their own pace.
Yeah. No, it's a very interesting, and also I get very interesting point from what you mentioned, which is what is the feedback or the impact from the clients, from the customers, like requirements and demands in the markets, which is also maybe always get as a feedback to the strategies when we talk about digital transformation and ensure that it's addressed. So I feel like customers, they have a say as well on the digital transformation journey that telecom is doing. definitely. So based on that, Nicolas, like, since you are maybe supporting also the telecoms and working with them closely when it's come to achieving maybe many elements of their digital transformation journey, like do you see any challenges maybe coming into that, maybe what you heard or what you witnessed yourself or what you came across?
Thank you for this question. I like what I hear so far. I mean, the organizational issues that are facing, the customer experience issues that are being faced. But we have Ericsson. I mean, if we take a few steps back, I mean, Ericsson, we've been in Oman for 50 years, 51 years now. So we started, Oman was already visionary in telecommunication 50 years ago, and has grown all the way to today, which is a 5G country. Yeah. So Ericsson, we are working with the operators in Oman in order to lay down the 5G foundation, which makes it possible to do a digitalization journey for the Vision 2040. So that's the role we are playing in the ecosystem. Of course, it's easier said than done, right? I mean, we can install network with very high speeds. I've heard like the latest record was 30 gigabit per second last week. So it's extremely fast, low latency. So you can really have use cases that requires low latency, such as self-driving cars, automated factories, ports, and so forth. I mean, the imagination is there. I mean, the ideas are there, but then you need to, of course, implement those. And that's where the industry has to work together, from the vendors, from our side, because we have the overview of all the operators across the world, how we can share what has been done towards Oman. And that takes a bit of time, but the technology is ready and it's there. But so far with 5G, we have been able to see in Oman something that we haven't seen in the rest of the world that is quite unique. It's the FWA, basically fixed wireless access, so that you don't dig the fiber. You have the 5G radio that goes directly into the building with a router, or CPE, as we call it in the business, and you get directly home broadband. And we see for the last 3 years, one operator, 92% of all the home broadband connection are via 5G, and that shows the enthusiasm to use the technology to its maximum extent for Oman.
Yeah, great, definitely. And KK, from your side, like since you mentioned also working maybe different parts and coming to Oman, or maybe you are seeing maybe what's happening in Oman from, I would say, someone who's coming and seeing things maybe differently. So what is your thoughts about like the digital transformation overall, or even what has been mentioned by the rest of panelists when it's come to challenges, when it's come to whether it's come maybe to the different situation you see in like in Oman market that's relevant to the digital transformation?
I think there's a lot of things that caught me by surprise when I came, and not only, I mean, the heat and the culture. I mean, many other things of the business as well. So I was actually very positively surprised about the level of digitalization that you have seen. So I think in terms of many aspects of customer onboarding experience, top-ups online, I think it is a very mature market, but there are certain aspects in which probably we're not reaching the whole capacity that we should have in terms of sales. I think the focus of what we're doing and how we're investing in infrastructure, how do we maximize the CapEx intensity, and how do we make the most of the networks, is something that it is there. But in certain aspects like personalization, digital marketing, etc., I think the market is not as mature as many other things that we've seen. For sure, what stands out is that we have a clear vision of Oman 2040, and then we have the right ambition on how to evolve the country at being the digital hub of the Gulf. And that is a very bold vision. The thing is that we need to make sure that all the investments and all the strategies and all the competitive dynamics get us there, and that we operate into a favorable environment in which these investments can succeed. Because at the end of the day, of course, we're all companies that needs to maximize our ROCEs. And I believe that this is probably what would define the digitalization goal of being achieved or not.
Yeah, no. In the great light of what you mentioned, Quique, I will just move to Shadli. Shadli, based on what Quique mentioned about the challenges maybe that we might face in Oman market, and maybe for every organization, of course, it will be different experience when it's come to its own journey in the digital transformation. So from your side, like what you would say maybe about some of the challenges you face, or at least some of the areas you feel like as a telecom we should focus on. We focus our investment there. We focus into developing more strength in that to help us even fast track or speed up the digital transformation journey.
So one of the major challenges obviously is digital inclusion. So if you look at Oman just in general, right? So you have your array of segments. So the segment, so I'll basically look at the challenge that I currently have, right? So the challenge that I have right now is my segment, my core segment that I target is my worker class segment, which hence is a blue collar segment. They're price sensitive. They're still in terms of understanding what digital is. It's not at their forefront. So I mean, one of the things, so how we were basically, because we've been in the market for the past 15 years. So what we've seen over the past few years, and our pivot to digital transformation honestly started 2 years ago. So if you just, I'll just give an example, our online app, which was a static app, was literally basically a top-up app. 2 years ago, we decided to, okay, fine, we're going to formulate it. We're going to make it into a full app where basically customers can manage, their services autonomously, either through top up, either through purchasing a bundle or whatnot. What we've seen is that the process for them to basically actually, one of the challenges is to basically get them to understand how to use a service and basically engage with it. That has been a challenging part. So the digital inclusion part is still something. So we say it's mature to some aspects, but not necessarily all over. And we're talking about a big segment of our population. I think this is probably not only focused obviously here; it's basically across the world. But it is prominent when we basically look at the segment that we're basically targeting. So it's an education for us, and obviously using telco to still try to basically transform into other verticals, be it fintech or whatnot. Is that also basically is because when you move into fintech, so say for instance we're in the precipice of basically launching our fintech operations, and what one experience, we haven't experienced it yet, but we've heard from other markets that basically have the similar products, is getting the customers to use a service digitally and trust the service. That's basically a challenge. So that's a challenge, but we understand the challenge. We're part of Beyond One Group, which is our parent company in the region, and their modus operandi is to basically use, to basically enhance and create digital communities. So yes, we're not native in terms of digital, but the idea is to basically get to that stage. And idea is through that is to educate our customers and educate the public in general with regards to how to basically leverage the digital experience. So I think the challenge is still we're at a stage where we need to basically educate customers how to basically use the services and how to basically navigate the online space. But that's a part of the journey.
Yeah. No, and Aneth, if you consider also, because I'm aware like sometimes the size of the organization or the telecom operator is also having distinguishing the challenges they might face, because it's different if we talk about a small teleco. When they go to their digital transformation, it might be easier, it might be difficult. I don't know. This is what I want to hear from you. So from your perspective, maybe if you shed the light on some of the few challenges you have seen relevant to your side, and also maybe what kind of maybe strategies you took to overcome them.
I think that in the path of digitalization, the number one item that you need to check is actually your cybersecurity and your security posture. Simply because opening the digital door means that you now are open to a number of new threats out there that you could actually protect yourself in a different fashion before. So digitalization also has its situations that you need to deal with. So I would say that fundamentally, on that specific front, and there are many challenges, to be very honest with you, this is not an easy path by any means. And generally what operators will do is that they're going to do it by pieces, and depending on how you digitalize, and this is happening from the upfront to then go to the back end, or isolate specific areas in which you start your digitalization process. But in any case, if I go back to the cybersecurity front, I think that designing, you build security by design, because whatever you're changing, you then need to be ensuring that you have the security levels that are required. The other thing and the other element that is absolutely important is the last mile, what I always say in cybersecurity, which is people, the users. And this is from where close to 80% of all the problems are going to come from, because people are either not used to not stepping on every single link they get on their emails, not used to following instructions when they, when they get this type of instructions, whether it is on a laptop or it is on the handset. So this challenge is actually one of the greatest ones. And all these zero trust initiatives that in cybersecurity are quite important need to become part of the operation, need to become part of the daily life of the employees. So digitalization is not a machine kind of thing only. It is a human process in which we all play a big part in understanding that we are digitalizing, but we're also becoming far more responsible on a greater world where we need to protect ourselves. So for us, that has been one of the most important items as we implement, because Vodafone Oman, yes, it's born 100% digital, but that doesn't mean that every single employee understands what that means, nor what are the behaviors that are to be behind these implementations. So I would say that that will be one of the areas in the transition that is absolutely important to take care of.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Cyber, of course, is something might be considered as an enemy that, or something will always make the digital transformation path not straightforward because it keep popping up maybe between time and time. So moving also into Nicolas, because knowing your role and the heavy role you had in the past years, of course, in Oman, when it's come to building the readiness of the infrastructure, focusing on the 5G as well, etc. How could you manage your balance between the heavy cost of building all of that things with of course the operating cost, with the investment you are making into that? So maybe this is something interesting I hear between time. Many operators across the globe, they are facing that kind of challenge. They need to make sure they have strong strategies to keep balancing the cost and also the investment they are making.
Of course, I mean, if we go back to 5G, I mean, there needs to be a return on investment. There has been some return on investment that you have the customer retention, of course, because the technology is more attractive. You have added services such as the mobile broadband, and then you hope that's going to be use cases for the enterprise, which is actually the market that is actually growing double digits. So it is essential for Ericsson to help for its customer how to capture that market, so the ROI is attractive and that the business case flies. And this we are working on as we speak, and it will be some kind of sorry about the expression, but some kind of catch-up effect once it starts and once the core is coming standalone. But in order to have a cost efficiency in our industry, because we are investing roughly $6 billion in R&D year after year. Okay, so it's a heavy research that is being done in those products. We need to have scale. We need to be all over the world and sell a lot of our products so that the marginal cost of the next produced unit becomes lower. So therefore it becomes affordable for a customer. And we believe we are competitive in that area. Of course, we have serious competition from from China, from Finland, and so forth. But this is the name of the game. Everybody has a competitor, but the name of the game is to have economies of scale in this area to justify our R&D investments and also to justify our customers' business case, which also has demanding shareholders.
Yeah, great. So in your back to the maybe also important parts, because how could you maybe balance or help the small operators, like when it's come to adopting some of the technologies you already maybe implemented or etc. Like, do you have already included that part where you see different type of access to different type of operators? Because like big telco operators, they can even build some of their infrastructure, etc. But for smaller one, maybe this is challenging. And even going into renting these or leasing these, I mean, like it might be still like not able to adopt the full value to implement it in their offering.
We have the big customer, the behemoths, the AT&T, this $15 billion deal that has been published. But let's not shy away that Oman is an important country for Ericsson. I mean, it's a big market for us that has big customers that are prioritized customers also. So they are not small if you're referring to Oman. They are not, and they are at the forefront of technology. Oman should be very proud of what they have rolled out so far. It is internationally competitive. Now, what we need to do is together go to the next step of what can be done with this technology. So, what are we doing from Ericsson's side? We have created a center of excellence with the ministry to train young Omanis on the technology, help them to develop their own business case use cases for the Omani Vision 2040. So we saw them last year, a few of them, very impressive, agriculture, agri-tech based, that are using 5G to enhance the food production in a sustainable way. So that this education and all this mentorship program we are doing, or just to help out to have this digitalized knowledge being spread in country of Oman, so you can develop what you need for yourself with a little bit of help of our know-how that we are happy to share.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear, and moving to KK as well to hear from his thoughts. So is there anything you would like to share, KK, when it says knowing that Ooredoo has done a lot of work, maybe even across the region and their presence outside Oman? So since you mentioned very interesting facts that when you came to Oman, other than the heat, you get also noticeably seen the digital transformation across the places, and also the efforts has been put together by everyone actually in the past few years into making sure that Oman is becoming into a very mature in its way to very mature status when it's come to digitalization and transformation. So from your thought, like, is there anything you sensed like giving you the impression that still maybe we have something to be focused on, or at least you identified some of the challenges you already mentioned? Maybe you can elaborate more, or what you learned from that.
Yeah, no, I think telco has the funny, and it's not only Ooredoo, and I think my colleagues will probably agree with me. So telco has the funny thing that it is a digital industry doing things very analogically, while the big disruptors, I hate the word disruptors, but what people call disruptors are actually analogic companies do things digitally. So now I think we're catching up in that way. It is true that in certain aspects of trying to put the customer at the center, understanding what the customer needs, or to really address the touch points and the moments of truth in an omni-channel way, meaning digitally or online and offline, I think it's something that is being done well. And I think it's something that actually we have caught up to a certain extent. The second thing, which is what I believe that telcos has even a more important role, and it's not a role of catching up, but a role of leading, is on how do we develop the next use cases and the infrastructure that is really going to take, in this case, Oman to the next level. I think that Nicolas mentioned that and it's something that I also noticed, we are very mature in terms of 5G wireless access for internet, and I think that it is something that is way more developed in Oman than in any other country that I've seen. And I have launched actually fixed WA products in Croatia and Slovenia, etc. But here it's part of the bread and butter. But probably the thing is not that much on how to have typical use cases with one particular technology, but how do we develop next technologies to take, as we said, the country to the next level. So what is else to be done on ICT, on IoT? How are we going to move into SD1? How are we going to create platforms that enables new ways of doing business, or what I believe is the future of the industry will be more B2B2C and not rather only B2C. So serving the demand is something that, as I said, I was quite impressed about how Oman has done it. The next level of how do you take the digital society to let's say, levels that has not been reached yet, I think is where the future of the industry lays, and where Ooredoo, and I'm sure my colleagues will do the most of their investments.
Yeah. No, great. And if we move to Shadli as well to hear, since you mentioned a few interesting things in previous notes you gave, when it's come to challenges and others, I think it's very clear based on what you mentioned to also stress on the importance of collaboration, of alliances, and the role of third parties that they might be part of your journey in that sense. So would you be able to share with us like any challenge or that you came across, maybe where you see that's you get successfully sorted by kind of cooperation or working together with someone, or even shed the light on any kind of something that you achieved as success story you would like to share?
So maybe I mentioned earlier, one of the, obviously one of the objectives of any telecom operator is to basically grow their revenues and their base. But if you look at Oman just in general, right, where mobile market penetration is at 140%, right? I think fixed broadband, if I'm not mistaken, last I checked was 75% market penetration. So that's close. I mean, the highest in the world, I think you have at 90%. So we're even close to there when it comes to fixed broadband. But if you just look at mobile market penetration in general, it's at 140%. Market is not growing, right? The growth population is stagnant. We basically, after COVID, we've grown really quite well. I mean, we basically think we were doing approximately almost 10% growth month on month in terms of growth of population, but that's basically stagnated right now. Actually, there was a negative inflow for the past 3 months. So what that basically means is that we have to actually focus more on how do we continue growing our base? How do we basically monetize our base? And that basically has to, we have to think in terms of what kind of services can we provide customers. So I said maybe earlier on that we're moving, I mean, I think in general, telco in general is moving from a volume-based model to a value-centric model. So it's not selling data and voice anymore. It's about, okay, what can they actually do with that, right? I mean, everybody, all of us probably here, operators basically sell data in abundance. So it's not about that anymore. It's experience. What can they do with it? So predictive modeling is essential, right? And if you look at from a telco perspective, you don't have, or at least us, we don't have the necessary skill set to do so. So this is where we tie up to third parties, allows us to basically get into those, into those domains where we can actually start basically really analyzing our base, understanding, okay, what makes them tick, profile them, and provide them with services, make it personalized one-to-one where, okay, fine, they can actually use the services for what they actually need, right? And then from that, that will basically allow us to move into other areas where we can start leveraging AI and machine learning, because that is a part of some of the things that we're looking at. Okay, now how to basically continue targeting these customers and provide them with different verticals. So not only focusing on telco, but looking at things like fintech, so microfinancing. So fintech is a different operation itself, but from a telco perspective, we can do things like microfinancing. We can provide education as a service. We can provide health as a service, right? Last year, we basically launched a life insurance program for our customers. That didn't really work very well because we didn't really have the necessary know-how to basically target our customers. And now we basically pull that back. We're using our predictive modeling tool to basically say, how can we profile these customers to target these particular target these particular profiles or segments. So again, it's an ongoing process. We're learning as we go, but it's essential for us to basically tie up with credible third-party, partners in the market that basically have those capabilities and specializations to allow us to basically move into these areas and grow and again monetize our base.
No, great. Nicolas, I think I will jump to you since there is something which you already mentioned when it's come to partnership and your stories or your experience when it's come to partnership between maybe the telecos with the third parties with all of this. So would you like to share something more about your experience in the partnership? How do you see it in Oman? Is it like happening to the way you meet your expectation, or you think there is more, or what are the challenges here?
No, that's the beautiful thing to work in Ericsson as a global company in 180 countries, that you can get inspired from what happens from the rest of the world and see how you can implement it. And no country is like perfect. No country has everything. So we can always bring ideas to the table. But the partnerships in Oman, I said, I've been working all across the world, is very nice. It's very humble. It's very open, and it's very professional. Right, what's get discussed upon and gets implemented and executed. So the demands are quite high, which we like here at Ericsson. Then what we could bring more to the table and discuss more are the element that Shadli said. Like, we have done fintech, done big fintech contracts in Africa that we could bring if that could add more value to like a portal app for the operators. We can add more value in health tech, agri-tech, based on what we are doing across the world. We can add more value on the factories that we are doing. I mean, not only the 5G is produced in the US using 5G technology, so we are eating our own food here, and it's super efficient. We are replicating that with Porsche, with Tesla, and so some other companies. If there is some manufacturing oncoming in Oman, we can be there. We're also doing a proof of concept with a customer, with Google, how to put some of the nodes with the feature in cloud environment, and that's a world first with the added feature that we put. So Oman will be the first country to showcase this. So it is at the forefront of technology, and they are really listening on what can be done. And as I said, they are implementing it. It's not just a slide where it happens for real. So
yeah.
We are
very interesting and to hear about the accelerated, I would say, efforts into supporting the transformation in Oman and involving all the relevant experiences and third parties, or whoever is going to help us. So anything in that same manner, like where do you see also the government is playing into that journey, like when it comes to their importance of contribution, and also how you as Teleco are also supporting them?
No, but this is just, if I may comment quickly.
Yeah, please.
This is super important. I wanted just to mention that this Vision 2040 is essential for Oman, because that's a guidance star. In Europe, I'm European, so I'm allowed to comment. I'm allowed to comment. We don't have that. We don't have a Vision 2030, 2040, 2050 when it comes to digitalization. That's why we are way behind compared to the rest of the world in Europe. So that shows the importance of government involving in setting the path for the nation. I'm sorry if I have interrupted.
No, great. And
No.
please.
And I think a good point there, because for us, what it has meant is that the government of Oman has taken a holistic approach to this. And this is absolutely important, because they are the ones that have created the framework, the policies, and the conditions for digital environments to flourish. This is where it becomes rather important. If you take Vodafone Oman is already a result of the 2040 vision. A third operator in the country, 100% digital. This is all part of the design of where we need to be as a country. And certainly, this is where other elements come into place that are important. If you take, for example, a couple of policies that the government has brought to life, the financial consumer protection policy, which is fundamentally a policy to cover consumers from financial situations or conditions. But when we go through it, what we understand from it is an excellent foundation to duplicate in the way we do work and digitalization on our own fronts in telco. So there's the importance then of the public-private partnerships, something that also the government of Oman supports and creates the conditions so that many companies, whether the government with the private sector, come together in order to provide services. We have a number of examples and actually a number of conditions today in which we're working with the government to precisely enable that. And the more we speak to SMEs in Oman and liaise them with government initiatives, in a better position we are, and the better we are nurturing the environment of digitalization in order to get to where we need to get as a country. We are playing only our part in the telecom environment, but it's a vital part because this is part of everybody's way or the gateway of everybody to get to the next level of things that they will need to get. Today, for example, if you take in our app, you're able to buy parking services, which is an old service done by SMS, but now you can select a number of things from the app. So you can not just decide on where you are and the timings and whatever else, but it's just seamless. You don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to remember anything. You just do it from the app. You just step a tile and that's it. You are one click away from doing things. So this facilitation from the government has been absolutely pivotal in creating the conditions to the results that you see today in Oman and to what efficiently Quique is referring to with respect to the digitalization of the country. How many services in Oman today can you get to that you can actually do through your mobile phone? Most of them by now. And just recently, ROP won the best app in COMEX. I mean, that only comes from the commitment of the government to invest on what's necessary for the population at large.
No, great. And forgive me, Aneth, I will not leave you without a cybersecurity question as well, since you opened that window. So just one thing. Yeah, so just one thing which is relevant since we are talking, and you mentioned also the heavy exposure or when using all of these services to the internet, to the connection, and the increasing risks coming or cyber threats. So you mentioned already something in that part which clicked in my mind, and to ask you what kind of maybe emerging technologies you have already adopted or you seen like it's effective to help us in both two folds, I would say. One, to ensure like we deal with the cyber part, but in the same time also to accelerate maybe our digital transformation, like the AI or something. So have there been any use cases or something you adopt to ensure that you are benefiting from that?
Yeah, of course. When we started the process here, we also ensured that we will be able to cover everything that is going on within our environment. So from endpoint protection, which is fundamentally we are able to take care of everything and have the visibility on everything happening on our servers, on the laptops, on the very soon to come on the mobile phones. That allows to see not only what's happening, but also one of the use cases that we have introduced successfully is actually the use of decoys. And what that means is that we're able to simulate things to attract anybody who can do harm or want to do harm to the company. And then we're able to identify what's going on before it even becomes a reality. So having these kind of technologies have been quite important in protecting not only ourselves, but by default, protecting our customers. I think that, the more of these technologies that we do, the more that we assess the risks every time we open up and bring in new technologies to be able to assess, because there is no 100% coverage of everything there is. There are people out there that are far more intelligent than most of us are. So we just need to be very upfront with the technology, and we have done that. We have embraced every new working technology in cybersecurity that is in the world, and we've done it successfully to the point that we are now being asked to participate on a number of forums and a number of collaborations on the cybersecurity front. So this for us is critical. But then again, I go back to what I said before. It all goes back to the people and how you create the level of adoption and responsibility of people using the technology. I think that we have a couple of very good cases today with automation. AI is critical in the process developing, especially with cybersecurity, as it refers to cybersecurity, because at the end it's also about we're having eyes that are looking 24/7, 365 days, what's going on, and every single movement in the network.
Yeah. I agree, and thank you very much for sharing these kind of success stories with us, with everyone. I think, Shadli, back to you. You mentioned a lot of important elements today, so thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and sharing your experiences. So I think when it's come to sustaining the growth within the digital ambition, and also like what is your perspective into that? How do you plan to accelerate maybe your digital ambition to achieve that sustainable growth? And after that, of course, we should also maybe talk about what is your expectation or perception on the role that ICT is playing, or even will play more in the nationwide economic development, in link, of course, with the Vision 2040 and some other frameworks in place.
So basically, I think I mentioned earlier that we're part of Beyond One Group. So Beyond One Group, essentially, their modus operandi or their mission and objective is to create a digital aggregator platform that telco basically is the bedrock, and basically has multiple verticals that creates this digital community. And the idea is to basically create that as a hub and then plug it into different markets. So if we know that Oman is one market, we have KSA as another market, Kuwait and UAE is another market. We also have Latin as another market, Chile, Colombia, and Mexico. So those are all fall under the realm of Beyond the Group. And the idea is that what they're doing is they've created essentially like a digital factory in place where we can also leverage from and basically establish synergies across the different markets. So what we're doing in the sense is that we're taking the learnings that are happening across different markets, whatever is being established in the digital factory, and what they're doing in the digital factory. So basically, our technology department in the central hub is called the digital factory. And what they basically do is they've done multiple developments that leveraging AI, machine learning, okay, with plugging with a lot of people with support from data scientists to establish a lot of these different kinds of services. Be it from essentially myself, we're not necessarily maybe moving to the cybersecurity front, but that's a part of one of the elements, right? So when you look at like how we plug into data centers over here, right now you have AWS coming in, so we're basically partnering with them to establish and leverage their services. You have Google also basically coming in as a sovereign cloud, sovereign cloud into basically one of the DCs. So we're looking at all these different basically streams in terms of like what can we do to basically establish that in terms of helping us build our verticals. And again, when we say verticals, we're not saying telco in general, but basically what is the value that we can build on top of that. So that's where we're going. Maybe if I can pivot to one of the questions that was basically mentioned earlier, where we see how we integrate or how we basically aligned with the 2040 vision. That's exactly what we're aiming to do, right? So when I look at the challenge that we have is that we have the working class where the digital inclusion is a major issue, and again it comes down to their wages, the price sensitivity, how they basically actually use an app. From onboarding to utilization, managing the whole thing autonomously, because these are the kind of people that still want physical engagement. So how do we basically get them online? So by moving to a value-based model and getting services and profiling of what they actually want, okay, we believe that we can create those kind of those elements. And we think that is one of the main pillars of the 2040 vision, is creating the digital inclusion across basically the digital economy, and as a part of the digital inclusion for the entire society. So it's an ambition that we have. It's an ambition that beyond one has. We are aligned on that vision. It's a top-bottom approach. It's a complete mindset. So I go back to what Aneth was saying. It's the people mindset. Everybody. It starts from the top all the way to the bottom. Everybody has to basically. So it's a challenge in itself to get the necessary talent and get the necessary know-how to basically execute that. It's something that we're basically building on a daily basis, and it's something that we're looking forward to.
Yeah,
it's challenging, but it's interesting at the same time.
No, it is, and it's very valid points you mentioned, Sad. So Quique, since I always refer to you as our reference when it's come to seeing the things maybe from outside, and also maybe in more different angle. So talking about this, like, what do you see is happening around? Like, what is your expectation, or have you noticed like any challenges already around you when it's come to the workforce maybe required to perform the digital transformation in an effective manner within the telcos? Do you see, for example, there is gap in skill sets since telecom, for example, infrastructure is becoming now more into the surface, and in that any discussion of digital transformation with its legacy system, with its maybe some of these challenges being fixed or addressed recently in the new technologies, I think still there might be some challenges which has not maybe been discussed, or you would like to elaborate more.
I think for me the most important thing is what you see, going back to the point that I mentioned before of us being a digital product sold in an analogical way. I think we don't have the level of expertise when it comes to IT, and with, let's say, our CIOs are typically in the industry, not as strong as the network guys. So I think there is a very big discrepancy between how to invest in the assets and have a proper, let's say, layer in terms of infrastructure. But then when it comes to really monetize that infrastructure, products as bundles of minutes and data, and that's mainly it. And we don't have people really defining the customer journey, which, again, if you take the example of the different industries that I was telling you, the Netflix of the world, they don't need to have the best content. They just have the best way to reach customers. The more, let's say, personalized engines, the better recommendation tools. We are not there yet. We don't have people defining what it is getting to the customer in a way that the digital first mentality is there. We don't have marketeers that understand what is the IT architecture. So I think that it's not that much of actually breaching a very big gap. I don't think the future of the industry is going to be defined by having people that ubiquitously are data scientists and they know how to do AI. I think without the hype of that, I think we have a lot of things to solve first. But definitely what is going to change the industry and is going to keep the relevance that telcos should have when they reach customers is the ability to define what the customer needs or what the customer wants, bearing in mind that the way that we have to interact with them is not the same one that has happened before. So the knowledge gap, it is not so hard to crack as of now. It is more to really understand how to go to market in a very different way.
Yeah. So thank you first of all for sharing your personal perspective, of course. But I would definitely not say like I agree fully or disagree, but I think what you are referring is might be very relevant when we talk about very high expectation, not even of the current target or where we want to reach in digital transformation. But I think many of the organization agree with you. Like they might have some areas where they can enhance, and I have seen like if you agree with me, the rest of panelists, we are open, so we can discuss and keep debating. But I think there is a lot of efforts happening. We acknowledge the issue of lack in some areas, and there is a lot of efforts where even the skill sets is not a problem to many of the telecoms operators, all of these things. But I think we are referring to maybe a higher expectation, which might be in some areas that we are looking predictively, and also to enter where might be still some challenges under the progress of resolving. Any point on this from the rest of panelists? But I just wanted to mention that so the audience will not just take it as generalized statements that we don't have the expertise, we don't have the powerful people and doing all of that.
Don't get me wrong.
yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not referring to. If I just make one comment, I'm not referring to the situation in Oman. I think that from an industry perspective,
yes,
there's a lot of gap to bridge because the industry has not been at the forefront of digital experiences. So I think, and I'm talking about not only in Oman but in every single operator that I have looked at, we were thinking always on onboarding journeys that probably has been done before in Revolut and in telco, when Revolut is banking going from a traditional business to digital while we are a digital asset. I think that in the way that we, let's say, try to cover that gap, I don't think it's a problem if you understand digitalization from a network perspective. I think that everyone knows how spectrum works, what radio is, how, let's say, the different infrastructure both for fixed and mobile work. But if you think, for example, about what is a CDP, what is a CMP, how do you actually reach out to audiences in a digital way, I don't think we have the level of maturity as an industry. And to be completely honest, I think that Oman is a little bit more advanced than any other countries, but probably not to the level that will allow us to reach into a fully digitalization.
Yeah. So I see, Shadli, you'd like to say something. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So just to add, so like, so Oman's ambition, obviously 2040 vision ambition is quite ambitious, right? I mean, we're talking about 10% of our GDP should come from the digital economy by then. I think, and you have, ways in where it's 2% right now. I think it has to be 5% by 2030, and 2040 we need to get to 10%, and that is quite ambitious, right? So and maybe just to echo a little bit what Quique is saying, and maybe from what my experience in the market is that so talent is there, and you see more and more of this coming up. I have a lot of relatives, family, people that I know, and a lot of them basically are either moving into like my sister, she's basically moving into, she wants to be a data analyst. And I have my little brother that actually basically wants to get into cybersecurity. So you have those elements. The one thing that I think that we need to do, and the government's done a fantastic job so far, right? I mean, they've laid the groundwork, they've facilitated, they're at the forefront. I think this year, from my understanding, from my read, is that we've grown year over year, 60% in terms of more contract signs, or in terms of investments in terms of AI. We have more companies, more SMEs basically growing out of incubations. So I think there has been a lot of ways apart. But one thing that I think that we also need to do is that we're getting into really basically investing in digital economy. It still requires a lot of capital injection. And this is one thing that I think that is, as we go along, it's going to become, because if you look at the region in general, I think from Saudi basically injected $40 billion in terms of AI, in enhancing the AI, just AI in general, generative AI. And UAE is basically done the same thing. So I think in terms of where we need to get to with regards to enhancing our talent capabilities is there, but we need to basically take it to another notch, one step higher, if you basically want to get to 2040 ambition, the ambitious goals that's been laid out. So I think we're in a good trend where like basically we're moving in a good direction. We just need to accelerate a little bit more to get to that particular point. Yeah, that's just the point that I wanted to raise.
No, great point, both KK and Shadli. I think since we are reaching almost like near to the end of our main discussion time, but I want also to shed the light, not talking only or focusing about the current where we are. I think talking about also our ambition for the next. So moving to Nicolas. So what is next? So we have achieved a lot of bright achievements when it's come to digital transformation and that journey, but what is next?
So what is next is to go to the next step of what the purpose of 5G. That's the next. There are 4 purposes of 5G. I mean, it's enhanced mobile broadband, it's FWA. Those Oman world class. Then it's mission critical networks and IoT that remains. So mission critical networks are use cases that requires the parameters that 5G is able to do, like this ultra low latency. You press a button here, the reaction is immediate on the other side of the network or wherever you are. So you can be in your couch and unload containers in a port, for example, just to illustrate the example. But this technology is really important latency in automated car, in factory that needs real precision. I've been working myself in factories when I was younger, so I understand the precision aspect and the safety aspect also, not having lots of wire on the floor. All these use cases needs to be real and done, and the enthusiasm is there. We see it coming over, as I said, with the Ericsson factory in the US. We see it in other plants in Europe, and we see them growing slowly. I mean, in Oman also, I forgot to mention that there is some work with an operator and NVIDIA to develop cloud gaming. All right, so this is coming. I mean, it's under the surface, but it's coming, and it's going to be some catch-up effect. So that's the next step, to really use the potential of 5G with the standalone core, and maybe using the hyperscaler to host those devices in order to create more performance and more efficiencies, if any. We'll see about that, but there is absolutely more to do. We've been with Oman for 50 years. We have seen the drive and the enthusiasm of Omani, and that they are executing on their visions, and we are there to continue on that journey with the people of Oman.
Yeah, great, and thank you again for your Ericsson commitment into that journey and making sure like they have heavy contribution as long as and as well as the rest of our organization and telecom operators. Moving to Aneth, the same question would be applicable to you. Like, what is next in your side?
The development of use cases on 5G. I fully agree with Nicolas. I think that the FWA case has been made, but on 5G specifically, IoT and use cases, specific use cases at a larger scale in Oman are required in order to really drive all the possibilities with the network, no? I'm certainly at that point. I think that digitalization, again, at the end or on the side of the customers, will continue its strong path. I don't doubt that we will get to a point in the next 5 years that we will reach 100% digitalization of the country. But at the end, it's also about how we also engage other things in the use of the technology in the country, and that will come fundamentally from IoT and other use cases.
Yeah, and Shadli, on your side as well, what's happening next, inshallah?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the major things that we're looking at in terms of our transformation is to really, really basically focus on the digital, moving again from volume-centric to basically value-based centric, focusing on basically applying multiple verticals, enhancing customer experience. As we know, we don't own a network, but so we leverage from others, and also basically, accessing and the advanced networks to enhance customer experience. That's going to be essential for us. Use cases for me, like IoT for me has always been a buzzword, but it's there, right? So that smart cities and these elements are coming into the forefront. But again, it's going back to how we can enhance customers' experience through value. How can we basically personalize the experience in a much more digital fashion, and establishing different verticals to engage with them. So that's going to be our core focus going into a couple of coming years.
Great. And Quique, since we are wrapping the discussion, please, and anything from your side?
I wouldn't add much from what the colleague said. I think we all said all. We are providing the fabric of the next level and the next generation of use cases. We need to understand how to monetize things. I believe that actually B2C by itself is not going to be specifically the way of doing it. I see that the industry will move more into creating the infrastructure in which B2B2C use cases will flourish. ICT, IoT, and many other things that Industry 4.0 will be driven by the whole infrastructure that we are putting together. So, exciting future.
Great. And it was very interesting. Unfortunately, we have time limits, which is always the case, which doesn't allow us to go in that interesting discussion and learning more. I'm pretty sure there is many things as experiences, as thoughts, as successful achievements has been done by every one of you and everyone in this country when it's come to aligning to the Oman Vision 2040. However, I hope we will have another chance again. And if you please stay on the line. So now we are also keen to address any questions that our audience have. So maybe Christine, we can move to some of the questions. Beside also, we have prepared some of the polls that we would like our audience to participate to help us in understanding what's in also their experiences or thoughts in that regard. So Christine, would you be able to give us if there is any question so far? Otherwise, I would ask our honored audience, please, if you put your questions in the question tab so we can direct it to our panel. So far, I don't see any questions. I don't know if I need to open. However, while doing that, I think also our panelists, you can, if there is any advice you would also provide to anyone, like whether it's yourself or people in teleco operators or whatever, whether it's in Oman or in general anywhere else, like what is your advice would be for anyone who's going through the digital transformation journey as a closing maybe word or something while we have some questions.
If I may start, my advice would be, as was said on the call, everybody knows about the radio, the core, and building in all those classic nodes that have been around for decades. But my advice would be keep on upskilling yourselves with the latest. Now we read a lot on AI. Learn everything you can on AI. Learn everything you can on the IT stack or whatever you have gaps, so those use cases can happen. Learn about the verticals. How does a port operate? How does a bank function? There is so much knowledge everywhere. Try to embrace everything so those use cases happens, because they will not happen by themselves. They will be happening by people that have educated themselves and have the drive to make a difference using the existing technology, because everything is there, everything is laid out. It's just there to use. So I'm spending every week to upskill myself. It's hard in the beginning, but then you get caught up in it, and it's hard actually to stop. So I encourage you to do the same.
No, great advice. I think we have some polls as well. So let me just leverage the time and start pulling some of the polls to our audience so they can participate and give their response. So we will show to our audience, we will show a few questions will pop up in your screen. So please, if you are kindly helping us with participation by respond to these polls. I think now you can see the third question, which aspect of Oman digital journey will accelerate further in the coming years based on your thought and expectation? Do you think, for example, the smart city development would be maybe more aspect that will have the priority and the development you would see, or whether it's the e-government services which already started and maybe it get accelerated, or you would say the other telecom advancement itself, digital economy growth, or even the talent empowerment, which has been already raised and discussed by our valued panelists. So we'll keep the question open, the poll for 1 minute. So we still have few seconds and then we will share the result. So I encourage everyone to participate, please. So let's see what interesting results we will have in terms of what's your thoughts. So now we have 11 out total. So what do you think, our panelists? Any guess? What do you think that? Keep it ready in your mind. Maybe don't say it to not influence our audience, but keep guess maybe if you see the screen and yeah. I think we can now close the first question of the poll and see the result. Okay, so our audience, they believe, based on the question we ask about which aspect exactly of the Oman digital journey will accelerate further in the coming years. So I think, I don't know if you can see the answers. So the most like common answer we got on the telecom advancement, which reflect also the expectation that is and responsibility on your side to advance the telecom sector with the 5G, with enhanced connectivity, with all of these, that will definitely have bigger impact. After this, I think what's coming next is the digital economy growth, which is, I think, linked in all cases. So let me move to the other questions, and maybe we'll give chance if we have time for any comments from the panelists, but if they whether they agree or disagree. Okay, so you can see the full orders of based on the responses we get from our audience. I think the lowest we get is the talent empowerment. So I think we have some issue here on confidence that talent empowerment will be accelerating, and which I don't totally agree. I think with all the efforts happening, with even the telecoms efforts bringing the best talents from all their global like presence to our region, I think this is hopefully we will demonstrate the opposites.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so moving into also, let me share again because there was also the other questions. Apologize for that. So the second question was, what do you believe is the biggest challenge for Oman digital transformation? I think the majority, they believe digital infrastructure when it's come to developing robust and wide spread digital networks. So this is definitely something with the contribution of telecoms and operators and others. I think we are going through a lot of advancement here. Secondly, which share the same weight, I would say, the skill gap, the cyber security concern, and regulatory frameworks, which are all no one actually believed the public awareness is a challenge as a biggest challenge. So I think yeah, which might be coming from everyone believe that our day-to-day life is anyway is we are aware of the importance of the digital transformation. We are important about our role, etc. The third question, which is about the technologies. So which technology we believe its most significant impact on a digital future? So most people believe like artificial intelligence or AI, it will have a big role into transforming the industries, and then followed by the Internet of Things, IoT. With that massive connectivity, the more data we'll be gathering and also utilizing. And I think next, which is the 5G networks and cloud computing, which came to the same rank based on the responses, as well as the big data analytics. So thank you very much for all who participated in this, and definitely we We are very like honored to have you all from panelists and from audience, and we hope you really enjoyed the discussions. And unfortunately, because of the time, I think we still have few minutes left. If there is any comment from the panelists they would like to add on the poll responses, or otherwise we can, I think, wrap the webinar.